Community is essential, but here's the tragedy. The happiness industry sells isolation. Your journey, your growth, your enlightenment, all just lonely products. Manual pause after tragedy for emphasis. You've been told your entire life that happiness is the goal, that it's the benchmark of a life well lived. But what if the very pursuit of happiness is making you miserable? What if every self-help book, every motivational post, every well-meaning just think positive is actually a weight around your neck? Imagine you're scrolling through social media, and there it is, another curated snapshot of someone's perfect life. A sunset, a smile, a caption about gratitude. And for a moment you feel it, not joy, but inadequacy. Because if happiness is the default, then your sadness, your frustration, your quiet despair must be failures. Personal, moral failures. This isn't just a modern quirk. Philosophers have warned about this for centuries. Schopenhauer didn't mince words. Life is fundamentally suffering, and pursuing happiness is like watering a plant with sand. The more you grasp at joy, the more it slips away. Nietzsche went further. He called happiness a pitiable comfort, something for the herd, not for those who dare to live deeply. And yet here we are, in a world that commodifies happiness like a fast food meal. Quick, cheap, and ultimately unsatisfying. Consider the language we use: choose happiness. As if it's that simple. As if depression is just a bad attitude. As if grief is a puzzle you can positive think your way out of. But what happens when you can't choose it? When the pills, the therapy, the gratitude journals don't work. You're left with a double burden. Not only are you unhappy, but you've also been convinced it's your fault. That's the tyranny, not the absence of happiness, but the dictatorship of its expectation. Think about how this plays out daily. You force a smile at work because energy attracts energy. You swallow your anger in relationships because good vibes only. You mute your pain because no one wants to hear it, not even you. We've been trained to treat sadness like a glitch, something to fix, not feel. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Negative emotions aren't obstacles to happiness. They're the price of it. You can't have meaning without struggle. You can't have depth without shadows. And yet the market thrives on your insecurity. The wellness industry sells mindfulness apps while exploiting your anxiety. Instagram influencers preach self-love while editing their flaws. Even science gets twisted. Happiness studies are cherry-picked to sell you a lie that you can optimize your way to bliss. But the data tells a darker story. The more a society prioritizes happiness, the higher its rates of depression. The more we pathologize sadness, the lonelier we become. It's almost as if the pressure to be happy is what's draining the joy from life. So where does that leave us? Maybe it's time to ask a different question, not how can I be happy, but why do I assume I should be? What if the goal isn't to feel good, but to feel true? To stop treating emotions as enemies or allies, and start seeing them as whether temporary, inevitable, utterly human. The irony is, the moment you stop chasing happiness, you might notice it creeping in. Not as a trophy, but as a byproduct. A fleeting warmth in the middle of an ordinary, unresolved, beautifully imperfect day. But let's pause and ask, why does this tyranny of happiness persist? Why do we cling to a myth that so clearly causes suffering? The answer lies beyond individual psychology. It's systemic. Capitalism doesn't just sell products, it sells the promise of fulfillment. Buy this and you'll be happier. Achieve that and you'll feel complete. The economy thrives on your dissatisfaction. A truly content person is terrible for business. They don't need the next gadget, the next self-improvement course, the next life hack. So the cycle continues: create the anxiety, then sell the cure. And it's not just consumerism. Look at how we structure our lives. Work cultures demand passion as a moral obligation, turning jobs into identities and burnout into a badge of honor. Relationships are reduced to compatibility checklists, as if love were a math equation with a happiness quotient. Even leisure becomes performative. You don't just hike, you document it. You don't just rest, you optimize your rest. Every moment is measured against an invisible standard of enough. But enough for what? Enough for whom? This isn't accidental, it's by design. The ancient Stoics warned against tying happiness to external conditions. wealth, status, and praise, which they knew were fickle and subject to chance. Yet today, we've done the opposite. We've linked happiness to outcomes, to likes, to promotions, to milestones that once reached reveal their emptiness. Max Scheler called this the idol of the ideal, worshiping futures that don't exist. Futures we're convinced will save us, but they never do. Because happiness, when treated as a destination, is always one step ahead. Here's the cruelest twist: the more we medicalize normal human suffering, the more we pathologize what makes us human. Grief becomes complicated grief disorder. Shyness becomes social anxiety. A bad day becomes a symptom. Mental illness is real, and help should be accessible. But when we label every uncomfortable emotion as brokenness, we rob ourselves of resilience, of the right to be a mess sometimes, to sit with uncertainty, with anger, with the full spectrum of being alive. Existential philosophy offers a way out, not with answers, but with better questions. Camus argued that the only serious question is whether to end your life, and everything else is secondary. Dark, yes, but freeing if life has no inherent meaning. The pressure to find happiness dissolves. You're free to create your own purpose, even in the absurdity. Nietzsche's Fati, love of fate, urges you to embrace your struggles, not just endure them. Not because they lead to happiness, but because they're yours. Because they shape you. Recall the last time you felt truly at peace. It likely wasn't during a peak of joy, but in a moment of surrender. A quiet walk without a goal. A conversation where you didn't perform. A failure that, in hindsight, taught you something no success could. These aren't exceptions, they're the rule. Happiness isn't a state to achieve, it's a byproduct of engagement, of letting go, of refusing to let your life be graded on a curve. So perhaps the real rebellion is dismantling the cult of happiness, allowing yourself to be gloriously, unapologetically unfinished. To say I'm sad today, and that's fine. I'm angry, and that's human. I don't know if I'll ever be happy, but I'm here, and that's enough. So where do we go from here? If happiness isn't the answer, what is? The real question isn't how to be happy, it's how to be free. Free from the cult of positivity. Free to be human. That freedom begins with one act of rebellion. Stop trying. Imagine what if today you gave yourself permission to feel exactly what you feel, without judgment, without solutions. No gratitude journaling your grief away. No spiritual bypassing your anger. Just raw, unfiltered existence. That's where the real work begins. The Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, contemplating worst-case scenarios, not to be morbid, but to disarm fear. Nietzsche's Amor Fati, loving your fate even when it hurts. This isn't pessimism, it's liberation. When you stop fighting your emotions, you start owning them. Here's your challenge, your test of philosophical courage. For the next 24 hours, stop performing happiness. When someone asks, "How are you?" defy the script. Try alive for now. Watch how uncomfortable it makes them and you. That discomfort, that's the sound of chains breaking. Delete one positivity account that makes you feel inadequate. Have one conversation where you admit "I'm struggling" without adding, "but I'm working on it." Let yourself be a work in progress that never progresses, because here's the secret they don't want you to know: you were never broken. The system that profits from your self-doubt is. So I'll ask directly, will you keep pretending, or will you join the resistance? The comment section isn't just for thoughts, it's for testimonies. Share one way you'll rebel against the happiness tyranny today. Then pass this to someone tired of smiling through the ache. Let's start a revolution where the first rule is, you don't have to be okay. The absurd truth? Happiness might find you anyway, not because you chased it, but because you stopped running. Now, who's ready to stop?